And this is the lab portion of this class, and I'll just use a little bit of your time to talk about, the alternative solution of the homework assignment that was due today, and also, a tricky way that people can get, into problems with this particular program, and how to debug it. Okay, so that's why I put it into the lab portion, because there's a lot of hands-on stuff. But I think some of you may find helpful. Okay, so it's up to you to decide which part of this is helpful to you. Okay, all right. So we're going back to find max 3, and what we'll do is to go back to main.cpp, which is a mess. I'm going to use main.cpp here. Turn off syntax highlighting, and change my tab stop to 2 because of set ts equals 2, so that this way it doesn't look really kind of awkward. And what I'll do is I'm going to re-implement find max 3 altogether and use an alternative solution to what we saw a little bit earlier in today's class. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to remove from line 6 all the way to here. So line 6 to here, delete. And now I'm back to square one. I have to re-implement everything here. And I'll also go ahead and delete the printf statement, because I really personally do not like to use printf for debugging a program. Now, before we get started here, I just want to kind of share with you, debugging is not just for programming. And I think most of you know that already. I'm pretty sure some of you like to work on cars or motorcycles. Okay, you don't need to raise your hand, but I know some of you are interested in that sort of thing. And when you work on cars or motorcycles or lawnmowers, okay, or bicycles, sometimes things do not work out the first time. Okay, or you buy something that's new and it doesn't work at all. So what do you do next? Put it on Craigslist, right? Yeah, just flip out your phone, get that Craigslist app up and running, take a picture, and say I'm selling it now. No, you diagnose the problem, right? You try to find out what's wrong with it, and it's the same process with debugging a program. Okay, if your car doesn't start in the morning, okay, or it's running rough, you will start up a process and use steps to help you find the problem. And it's the same thing with programming. Not much different. So what I'll do is I'm going to give you the alternative solution, but it's implemented incorrectly. So I'm telling you ahead of time this is actually incorrect. But you guys will have to kind of figure out, well, I'll figure out with you guys why it is incorrect. So I will structure the program first. Okay, so I will structure the program like this. Set auto indent to be AI for auto indent. So this way it will keep the indentation. Okay, so this is the structure of the program. And go ahead.
I was just wondering if there's a way, like, I think on our distributions, the VI doesn't have line numbers on by default, so you have to turn them on. Like, is there a way to turn those on? And
Yes.
Turn on auto indent?
Yes. So what you do is you enter a file called tilde, which is your home folder, and then tilde/.vimrc. So vimrc is basically quote-unquote a startup script for Vim in this case. So whatever command you put into vimrc, it will run automatically when you run Vim.
Okay.
And that applies to all versions of Vim. So you can, whether you use Vim or gvim or whatever, it will still be the same startup code.
Okay.
All right. All right. So here we'll go. Okay. Are you guys ready? Okay. So here I would just say that, okay, I will confirm so that this particular then branch will confirm that x is the maximum. This particular one will confirm that y is the maximum, and this one will confirm that z is the maximum. This is the other way of approaching a problem, is to say, how can I confirm that x is the maximum of the 3? If I can do that, I can just use line 8 and say, okay, this is the maximum. But if x is not the maximum, which is matching the else branch of the outer conditional statement, starting on line 11, I will specify the logic. Okay, x is not the maximum, it's down to y and z, so how can I confirm that that is the maximum? And one way to confirm x is the maximum is pretty simple. Okay, all you have to do is to say if x is greater than y and x is greater than z, then obviously x is the maximum, right? If x is not the maximum, now since I'm being lazy here, I would use the same kind of logic and say if y is greater than z, if y is greater than z and y is greater than x, then y is the maximum of the three. Seems to work fine, right? Okay, so we'll go ahead and test this program out. So g++ dash g, because I need to use the debugger in this case, main1.cpp, g++ dash o main1, main1.o, and now I run the debugger, okay? And I put a breakpoint in main first, because you have to run the program in order to do anything with it, okay? So the easiest way to do it is just to put a breakpoint in the first line of main so that the program pauses, and then you can just go ahead and print, find max 3, whatever. Okay, so now I go through my tests. It go like, okay, let's say print find max 3 with 1, 2, 3. Ah, that works. Okay, that's cool. Yep.
Let's say you have print max. Is that work or not?
You cannot just say find max 3. That won't work because find max 3 is not a command of GDB. So you have to use a print statement in order to get it started. Okay. So I can now say 3, 1, 2, and it seems to work fine. So Tack, what do you mean by this program is not working? Okay, let's try 3, 2, 2, right? Okay. So 3, 2, 2 is working too. Okay, but what if I have two numbers being the same and they're both the maximum? Okay, that is when this program stops to work. 3, 3, 2. Hey, okay, wait, hold on a second here, right? Because the maximum of 3, 3, and 2 should be 3 and not 2. Maybe it's only because of 3. Maybe if I try 5, 5, and 1, it would work, which obviously is a flawed type of reasoning. But obviously, it doesn't work. Okay, so we know that this program now has a bug. Now this bug is kind of notorious because it does work in all the obvious cases. It's only the not so obvious case that it does not work. Okay, so how do I fix this program? Well, the way I'm going to fix this program is I will go back out, change the program so that main is going to call with 5, the case that did not work, 5, 5, and 1, because I have a suspicion that I have to do this several times to get it fixed. Maybe, maybe not. So I will do a g++ dash g dash c main1.cpp and then just link it. And the next command. And then we go into main1 again. And this time I'm not going to just do a print. I will still put a breakpoint in main, run the program, but this time I want a single step. In other words, I want to go into the subroutine and execute statements in the subroutine line by line to figure out, hey, how did you figure that 1 is the maximum of 5, 5, and 1? Okay, because if the program picked any one of the two 5s, it would still be correct. It missed both of them. But it's exactly because both are 5s that is missing both of the 5s. Okay, so let's go single step into the program. The first line is if x is greater than y and x is greater than z. Okay, now if you're not reading carefully, then you would say, okay, x is 5 and it is obviously the maximum already, and we should have a confirmation of this condition, right? So you would single step, thinking it will go to the then statement of this particular conditional statement, which is on line 8. But when you single step, it goes like, ooh, it goes to line 12, which is the else branch of this conditional statement. So you have two choices now, okay? So you can either go back to the program and think more carefully and say, I thought this is going to line 8. How come it's going to line 8? Excuse me, I thought it's going to go to line 8. How come it's going to line 12? So you can stop and say, okay, let me think this through and make sure that is the case. Or you might think y is also 5, so I have a second chance of making the maximum correct. Okay, But that would be kind of like a flawed line of reasoning, because if you thought it should go to line 8 and it's not going to line 8, you should stop here and think about it already. But if you think, hey, since y is the same, if I catch y as the maximum, the program will still be quote unquote correct, even though I don't know why, it will still be correct. You can now single step again, okay? So you look at y, and y is 5 as well. And if you think about, oh, 5 is the maximum of the 3 numbers, and automatically assume that it should go to line 14, then it will surprise you again, because it's not going to line 14, it is going to line 18, and that is why we got the 1 for the maximum. Okay, so at this point we say, okay, the program is definitely broken, okay, because it missed 2, both of the 5s. Okay, so let's go ahead and run the program again with a breakpoint in main. This time we single step, and right here we stop, and we say, why is it not going to line 8? Because I think x is greater than y and x is greater than z is true. Well, let's confirm that, right? So we'll confirm, x is greater than y and x is greater than z as an expression in GDB, and it says it's false. No wonder we ended up on line, 14, line 12, I think, line 12, because this expression is false. But why is it false? Okay, let's look at the individual components. Because if you have a logical AND or a conjunction, if any side of a conjunction is false, the whole thing is false. Okay, so we want to double check and say, is x greater than y false? It is. Does it make sense? One is 5, the other one is 5 as well. 5 is greater than 5 is false. Exactly. Now, if you're not convinced that x is greater than y should be false, then you can substitute the values with actual constants and print that instead, and it'll give you the same result. So right now we know why the program is misbehaving, because instead of using greater than, we should have used greater than or equal to. That's right. Okay. Now that we have a suspected solution to this problem, we have to go back into the program and fix it and see if that really will fix the program. So we substitute. Okay, do you guys want to do all the substitution all at once? Okay. Now we have to be careful not to include the first 2 lines, because the angle brackets should not be replaced. So we have to limit ourselves to line 6 to line 13. Okay, so line 6 to line 13, substitute the greater than symbol with greater than or equal to, like so. Save the program, and then recompile the program. I will still do a -G just because that's the only way to see the behavior of the program. And link the program. Oops, not main, main 1. There we go. Put a breakpoint in find max 3. Run the program, and now we single step, and this time it caught the first maximum correctly. Okay. And that's okay. So now I can actually do all the other confirmation, because I have a suspicion that this is now working correctly. 3, 3, 1. Oops. So we have to single step a few more times. Okay, now we so print find max 3 3 3 1, and it's still complaining. Okay, run the program again. Okay, now we can do it. I forgot to put a breakpoint in main. There we go. Okay, now we can say print find max 3 3 3 1. The program being debugged stopped in the function called from GDB. Oh, because I forgot to remove that breakpoint. Does anyone remember how to list all the breakpoints?
Info breakpoint? Info breakpoint?
To list all the breakpoints that I have set so far? I'll just help. Help with breakpoints.
Info B.
Info B? Okay. And if you look through this, it will tell you. Oh, it doesn't say it. So I have to stop one of the breakpoints because it's interfering. So I have to stop breakpoint 1, which is delete 1. That will delete the breakpoint. So now I can say print find max 3, 1. It is 3. That's good. Okay, that's good confirmation. Should I stop now? And say, oh, okay, the program is all fixed. Let's try make sure that this is actually fixed. And it is. Okay. Now this particular problem is really nasty because if people just use 3 different values, it will never show up. Okay. And if you use 133, it doesn't show up either. It's only when the first and the second are the same, then it shows up. Actually, when the first and the third are the same, it will show up as well. Okay, so this is a particularly nasty type of bug because it's not easy to catch. All right. Any questions about this whole process? No particular question. Okay. And then, yep, go ahead.
Like I did that error and it's working the same. It works fine.
Are you sure you have exactly the same code that I did?
Pretty sure, like I did x is less than y, or and x is less than z. I didn't do equal sign in there.
But this problem only shows up if you have the structure exactly like this. So I'm suspecting your program is not exactly like this. In other words, when you're in the else, it's only comparing 2 variables instead of 3. Yeah. So that would change the behavior. Okay. Any other questions? How many people are feeling somewhat familiar with GDB at this point and say, well, I can kind of get around and, okay? I'm hoping this will carry on to your next few classes because in 400 and 430, you'll be writing a lot of programs too. Okay, some of you do not have to worry about that because you don't need to take 400 and 430. But if you are going to 400 and 430, I think the debugger is going to be a useful tool, to debug a program. It's kind of like a stethoscope of a doctor. Okay, so instead of just having the doctor to ask you questions, or just give you random medication to see whether it works or not, okay, it's better to use a stethoscope to kind of help pinpoint the problem first before medication is prescribed. Is that making any sense? Or X-ray, it's kind of like a stethoscope, X-ray, all this stuff that the doctor uses to kind of diagnose what kind of sickness people may have. Any other questions? Because if there are no questions, I'm going to stop the recording because that's the only thing I want to talk about for the structured portion of the lab, and the rest is just you guys doing your homework assignment, and I will try to answer questions when you're doing your homework assignment. See any hands here? I will go